Last week, I was having lunch with my friends Kim and Aaron and Douglas. You guys, if you were here at the start of the year, you may remember that's the team that kind of helped lead us through that Lament series together. And if you've ever been with any of those guys, they ask great questions, but just like in the normal run of conversation. And Kim asked, when do you most feel you? And so I think Douglas and Aaron gave great answers. I can't remember what they were because I was trying to think for myself and thinking, when do I most feel me? And I sort of stumbled and bumbled through an answer, trying to figure out what's my thing? You know, what's that thing? And I was thinking about it later. I was like, oh, you know why I was finding it so hard? Because I was just thinking in isolation. Now, I believe God gives us things to do. Absolutely, I believe that. But in relation to Him and to one another, right? That's where we find who we truly are. And the world doesn't tell us that, right? I remember, I have this memory from school growing up, and there's a poem called Invictus. I think I remember it. There was a rugby movie that was based around this poem. And it's this stirring poem about how we can step into doing things. And it kind of gets inside you, but it ends like this. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. And you kind of think, yes. But we read Philippians 2 and verse 13. It is God who works in you, both to will and to work for His good pleasure. That's a very different story, right? That's the story of God working in us, God going before us. And as Michael told us, that you there, that's you, that's us in relation to one another. That follows right after where it says, my beloved. That's what we've been learning these past few weeks as we think about what it is to have the mind of Christ. Remember last week, Jordan and Violetta talking about what it is to be parents to children in the foster care system and feeling so overwhelmed. But what was that phrase that Jordan used, that his dad spoke to him? You're a link in the chain. That's wider. Donnie, a few weeks back, talked about that word at the start that has meant so much to us as a church, koinonia, partnership, and how our stories come together. John's story, Jerry's story, of how God has been with them through the ups and the downs, how God has gone before them. They didn't write those stories, God wrote those stories. And we are all part of God's story. And it's a grander story than we could ever imagine. I had an experience this week. A few of you, if you were kind of around the church building, might have had the same one. Came in, and there was no art on the wall in the gallery. And it felt weird. We got used to that. What does that do? It points us to something more than ourselves. Artists do that, don't they? Storytellers do that. Musicians do that. Poets do that. They point us to more than ourselves. When I think about this story, I think about a tapestry, but not just like a little linear tapestry, one that goes in every single direction. And there's a little part of that tapestry in a little town in mid-Missouri, where back in the 1970s, a bunch of hippies thought, we're going to start a church. And some of them are still here today. They've mostly cut their hair, put on some shoes. Yes, that's the story. And then there's a little part of that story, some threads that come through that story of in the 90s and into the 2000s, a connection started happening as refugees from Africa who were fleeing war came here. And that's some of your stories. You're here this morning, woven in together. In the 2010s, Nene and Jean-Claude came. We started our third service. This is our tapestry. At the end of 2002, maybe we were gathering a few more people. You're now going, oh, I was here then. and Michael spoke to us about how God is calling us as a church, as a people, to Ukraine and to the continent of Africa. And then in 2023, a team went to Ukraine. And Jean-Claude and Judith and Shalom went to Burundi for a first time to start exploring. And the story continues, and we've continued exploring. Debbie and Cheryl, Caritas, been in Rwanda. Caritas be getting back next week. This is our story. And this story continues this summer when we're going to go back to Burundi again. So many of you know this already. It's not been a particularly well-kept secret, but if you don't know, we are taking a team back to Burundi this summer. And what I'm so excited about this is that actually this is just not our story. Because there's a little piece of that tapestry of a group of churches led by Pastor Oscar in Burundi. And their stories have been woven together. And we get to go and we get to learn their stories. And we learn from them and we receive from them and we give to them. And God weaves us all together. And so this morning, the invitation is for us all to come into this story. Now, I'm going to bombard you with information now for the next few minutes. If you're a note taker, don't worry about it, okay? We have got everything hopefully covered. We've got a website, okay? There's a church page. So we've got a Burundi website that you can kind of click on. Out in the hallway afterwards, when you go out into the foyer, you can sign up to, depending on your level of preference, you can follow on Instagram, on Facebook. You can just write your name on a clipboard and sign up that way. So we've got everybody covered there. So if you're not a QR code person, it's okay. We've got you, okay? So who's going? So this is the team that's traveling. So this is the team that's actually traveling. That's Becky, Jean-Claude. There's Mary, Tara, Shalom, Judith, myself, and Becky are on the end there. If you don't know any of them, you're going to have a chance to get to know a few of us with a couple of opportunities over the next few weeks. But it is not just us. Here's the wider team that's already growing. Take a look at some of these pictures. Maybe you recognize a few people in those spots. Up there, top left, that is the Bukowski family. Katie Bukowski heads up our CF Kids. And so I said to Katie, I would love for our kids to be involved. What do you think could happen? What might it look like for our kids to have a vision for what this is, to go together? And so we're holding an event on June 1st where we're going to have a Taste of Africa night here. Judith and some of the ladies from Third Service are going to cook. Okay, we're going to have a movie. We're bringing back Malts for Missions. So if you're like an old timer here, Malts for Missions, it's where we make milkshakes. Okay, you might have been a part of that way back when. If you're not an old timer, I'm saying malts, that's milkshake. It's not mulch for missions, okay? Apparently I've been saying that and people are like, we're selling mulch for missions? That's weird. No, malts, okay? But as part of this, Katie said, what if our kids kind of made stuff that they could sell? And then Joe Tepke underneath, Joe jumped in and said, I'd love to be a part of that. I can help, I can do like some stuff with some wooden discs and I don't know, it's going to be absolutely amazing. But they get to be a part of that. There's the Block family underneath, okay? They have a print shop here in town. Out in the hallway, you can grab one of these cards. It's got a picture of the team on the back, just a little description of what we're doing. There's a QR code there if you want to kind of scan that. Takes you to the website. They said, we want to be in. We want to be a part of things. Our friends at Toasty Goat, the Prevettes and the Bryans. You know what they're doing? Toasty Goat, if you don't know, it's a little coffee shop just up the street. They're getting in Burundi coffee beans. So if you go and you buy some Burundi coffee beans, part of that's going to come and help us go. They're going to run an event there. There was a picture there of a talented young baker who I might happen to know. She's going to help with that. Okay? You'll have a chance to participate. Our missions team, Kathy, Taya, the rest of the team, the community there at large, Laurie and Anne, jumping in to help us. I want to just highlight Anne up here in the top corner. So Anne, when we asked Anne about getting involved, you know what Anne said? Anne said, I would love to help people pray. Oh, my heart just leapt when she said that. Because we're going to need it. all together. And put together, it's going to be a kind of a weekly prayer bulletin, not just for when we're there, but starting now. There's already one written. It's all about thanksgiving for what God's doing. If you kind of sign up, okay, you can sign up for that, okay? We'll make sure you get that prayer bulletin. You get to see it and get to join with us. So we ask ourselves, what could you do? How could you be involved? So now, I had a little idea for this, and I thought, what could I bring? So what's my thing? Like, well, I've been running a little bit, and I've got some basic math skills. So I thought, how about we run to Burundi? Burundi's 8,100 miles away. So I started on Friday, my day off. I went 7 miles. That's not going to get us there. So there was another picture there. It was this guy. So I grabbed him on Saturday. We did 20 miles between us. Yeah, it was good. Actually, it was awful, to be honest. But that's 2 10s as well. That's 2 10s, so we get to count both of us. How about we did this together? Now, it doesn't have to be running. Maybe you bike, or you walk, or you dog walk, or you prayer walk, or you walk on a treadmill. Maybe you're a rower on a rowing machine. Maybe you're rocking the old school Nordic track. That's how you get there. You can ski. But what if we together thought about that? And as we're going, when you go out on that walk, you think, I'm going to pray a prayer of thanksgiving for the team. Now, maybe you're not any of these things, but you've got somebody in your life who is. You say, hey, I want to encourage you. Maybe like, I'll give you a nickel a mile, something like that. But we can come together for that. Now, for that to work, you've got to tell me that you're doing it, and then I can just kind of add up those basic numbers. So again, sign up for that. Say, Steve, I am going to be a part of this. We're going to do this together. So, the invitation, remember, is to God's bigger story. It's not just about a small group of us. It's not just about us here in this room. It's about God's family that he's knitting us into, that he's calling us uniquely into in this space. Now, if you want to know more, like I say, sign up. We're going to have an information meeting because I know, I wanted to bring everybody up here and have everybody tell their stories, but there just wasn't time this morning. But we're going to have that here a week on Wednesday. We'll make sure you get information. If you sign up and you kind of connect to any of this sort of thing, we will get that information to you, okay? Grab one of these cards on your way out. Let us know that you want to be a part of what God's doing.